Good morning. It's Friday, and I've started to relax. No, I haven't. And all these little bugs that appear, I'm sure, do it just to spite me. There is somebody hanging over my shoulder saying, "I'm going to give you a bad time this Friday, Mr. Keith," and they do. It's all over the place again this morning, and I do nothing different to what I did yesterday morning, and it was perfectly okay. There we go. I tell you, I am totally anti-computers. Let's go back to candle. Ed Tom Paine invented the smokeless candle. Let's go back. Candle power. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yes, indeed. Let us let's try it. Anyway, it's the 28th of July, 2023. It's 8:36, and it's has been raining outside, and it's not at the moment. It's not going to be a very nice day again, and I'm afraid that we just have to put up with it. But it's it's going to be warm, all right. There's no question of it being cold, but the sort of weather that we're actually experiencing right now makes me giggle a bit, because the experts are saying the end is nigh. The earth is going to shrivel up because of all this heat. Well, yes, other places have got heat. We haven't. So presumably there are conditions in which you don't have heat. So all is not lost. Surely there's something to that. But anyway, let's settle down and try to enjoy this Friday. One or two things floating around. I thought I might hear from the two bees this morning, but they obviously very busy in sending people off to prison or stopping them from going to prison, one or the other, and very good they are at it too. They're also very good at broadcasting, so we miss them. And I loved having them on a Monday morning, and I love having them on a Friday morning. But today, they, like everybody else, have to earn their corn, and off they go to the courts, anywhere from here to Portsmouth, and occasionally, and believe me, both of them have appeared at the Old Bailey. They're pretty damn good at what they do. And they're always a pleasure to have on. They're so dry. Don't talk about amusing. Now, I have no idea whatsoever whether we got... I have no idea what we got. So the Metro we start off with this morning, and it is a global boiling, and it is all about the fires and the fact that we're particularly roads in the Mediterranean, but also it's spread to North Africa. The conflagration, that the fire is out of control, and it is frightening. And according to some experts, we are in dire straits. A warning by the United Nations chief Antonio Guterres that this year's scorching summer in the Med marks the start of a terrifying new era of global boiling. That story is accompanied by a picture of flames engulfing a hillside in Rhodes, as the wildfires continue. Elsewhere on the front pages is the news that Peter Flavel, the boss of prestigious private bank Coutts and Company, has quit following the scandal over Nigel Farage. There we are. The eye follows on with this theme. The world enters era of global boiling, and there we continue with the picture of a building in Rhodes being totally engulfed by flames, by fire. And if you're in the middle of that, it certainly would be frightening. But the eye says the world is entering the era of global boiling, adding that scientists have revealed that July is on track to be the hottest month ever by a large margin. Well, you can fool us here, but we've been watching with interest what's been going on the continent, and certainly they are having a very bad time. The Guardian, it stays in mainstream this morning. Normally the Guardian manages to take a different tack to every other paper. But era of global boiling has arrived, and it is terrifying, says the United Nations chief. The Guardian leads on the United Nations warning about global boiling set to become the norm, and that global warming has ended. There's also a story about the Nigerian women's football team celebrating beating Australia during the Women's World Cup, 3-2, I think. That was interesting. The Mirror. Right, the Mirror stays with the environment, but well, I haven't got the clip for that. Unfortunately, it shows that clothes, and it says the real cost of our throwaway fashion. Recycled UK clothes are dumped in West Africa, it says. It says another environmental disaster in the making. The Daily Mirror reveals recycled clothes from the UK are being dumped in Ghana, which is in West Africa. This is because many items donated are so cheaply made that they can't be reused. So charity does not begin at home. Charity is turning into an environmental disaster, environmental nightmare. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. It's if it's not one thing, it's another. The Daily Telegraph, public must be spared the huge burden of net zero, warns Blair. Net zero is, of course, the coming down to totally and utterly clean air, and we're told that well, there we are, all enjoying the heat on Brighton Pier or in Brighton Seafront. Well, just a few days ago. I wouldn't say that that's that packed today, but the Telegraph says that, and they're quoting Tony Blair. And good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning, Kevin?
Got a cold, Keith.
You got a cold?
But apart from that, I'm all right.
All right. Well, he'll half look after me this morning then. Former Prime Minister Tony Blair has cautioned against asking the public to do a huge amount to tackle climate change because Britain's net zero efforts alone can't solve global warming. However, the former Labour leader has stressed that climate change is the single biggest global challenge and that Britain should play its part. I find that a bit of a wishy-washy story. I don't quite know what it's saying, to be quite honest with you. But then again, I never did know what Tony Blair was saying. So, the Daily Mail, Harry's hacking claim thrown out by the courts. and that is to do with Prince Harry's claim that the Daily Mirror, I think it was, hacked his phone, and he's taken them to court over it. But the court has ruled is it's not true. And the Sun newspaper was thrown out, not the Mirror, the Sun. It was thrown out of the High Court. So, in other words, the courts have ruled that he was wrong. The Daily Express, new pension triple lock threat. Now, this one is really likely to get us all going because it's talking about triple lock is to do with our pensions, and that is that the three criteria, and if those criteria are met, then pensions go up quite substantially, and they will do again this coming year, unless Parliament changes the rules, which it's likely to do. I mean, it does it all the time. The only rules that it doesn't change for the worse anyway are the rules that govern itself. You never find that they suffer. No, everybody else has to suffer. But the story is the Express warns of a new pension triple lock threat, while also sharing a picture of rock legend Mick Jagger, who celebrated his 80th birthday way into the night the other night, apparently. But the triple lock threat is that Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, says he's going to end it. If they get into power, it's gone. Pensioners are going to pay the bill again. Now, I lay down a challenge to Keir Starmer. If you get in and you want to change that, by all means, change it. But what I think you've got to do is to also change the rules for MPs. And there's one single simple thing that you can do, just the same as triple lock you can do away with just by the stroke of a pen, is all MPs' expenses, all of them, no exceptions at all. All MPs' expenses are subject to the same rules from the tax department that we are all subject to. And that means it is a level playing field, and whatever they claim won't be subject to the Privileges Committee in the Houses of Parliament, in the House of Commons, but into the same rules as the rest of us. Now, that is a levelling that everybody, I'm sure, would be welcome. So if you're going to tamper with one, Keir Starmer, tamper with the other. And when you don't, if you suddenly find that you are Mr. Unpopular and the polls plummet, don't blame anybody but yourself. You're just a typical politician, the same as the rest of them. What are we going to talk about in Cabinet today? Well, let's protect everything we've got. Then we'll take a look to see whether there are any crises which we can safely ignore. Oh, yes. The Times. Migrants set to be housed in marquees for the summer. It's one of those things that they don't know what to do with them. And every time that they come up with something like put them on board ferries in the Thames, there's some judge far away who is listening to the those people who are dead set against anything to do with immigrants, but don't have any idea whatsoever. No positive thoughts about how to solve the crisis. That's what we're looking for, is a solution. I don't care whether we don't put people into ferries. I don't care if we don't put them into tenements. I really don't care. But what I am looking for is somebody with a sensible solution, and you don't. All you do is you stop anything that anywhere closely resembles trying to solve the problem. And I am sorry, yes, in this particular issue, I have become a First Nationer. Let's look after the UK first, and then see what we can do for other people, not the other way around. Oh, I've just absolutely upset the Liberal establishment. Okay, good. That's what debate is all about. Since I've upset you, you come back and tell us what your plan is. Because doing nothing and wringing your hands and saying tut, tut, tut isn't a solution. It is not good enough. So let's hear it. You spend enough time in meetings, you spend enough time chattering and wittering on. God, just awful. Just awful. Oh, well, there we go. Let's see what else is in the news. Migrants set to be housed in marquees for the summer. Yes, Home Secretary Suella Braverman. Oh, she hasn't been in the news recently. Gosh, a nice controversial figure she is. Has bought tents to accommodate up to 2,000 migrants on disused military sites as part of an emergency plan to avoid costly last-minute hotel bookings. The paper also reports that Ministry of Defense officials accidentally sent emails containing classified information to Mali, an African country with close links to the Kremlin, because of a typing error. At the sign of our times. First of all, our governance can't get anything right. I mean, they can't even just type something that's simple. And those are the people that are in charge of us, for God's sake. The politicians just witter on. God, it's frightening. It is really frightening. And then putting a spanner in the works when somebody tries to do something to resolve a key issue that is bothering the majority of peaceful, calm, loving citizens who pays the taxes and expects something to be done. You'll be lucky. You'll be lucky. Incompetence reigns right through our governance. And before you sit back and say, yes, I'm talking about locally as well. God almighty, they really have no idea. Head in the bloody clouds. And who pays for it? Us. That's what it boils down to. Yes, am I mercenary? Yeah. Because people, the sweat of their brow, breaking of their backs, earn money to pay that money. And for it to be willy-nilly spread on principle instead of practicalities is just simply not on. It's incompetence. The Daily Star. Ooh, it's got Mick Jagger on it. Mick 80, parties till 3 a.m. And just for those people who have moved into Lewis fairly recently, you might not be aware that Mick Jagger was once a resident of Lewis prison. In his very early career, when he was threatening the establishment, or the establishment thought that he was threatening them with the use of drugs, as he was thrown into the prison there, and famously said to the warder, "Here, Gov, what time is supper?" To which the warder said, "I'm sorry, it's Sunday night and the kitchen is closed." So he said, "Give me the phone," and he phoned the White Hart Hotel and ordered a takeaway, which was duly delivered and devoured by he and those who had been incarcerated with him. So the Daily Star is our energy bills rocket as gas profits rise 900%, and Centrica makes £6.5 billion profit. And it shows a picture of a gas firm boss and says, "How do you sleep?" And the fact is, it's a fair old question. Because profiteering, as Stuart Dolby has pointed out on this station, profiteering amongst the facilities companies is rife, widespread. And while we are paying extra and increased bills, the fat cats of the energy companies are getting fatter. The CEOs are making more. Shareholders are seeing an increase. The customer, not a sausage. Not a sausage. Financial Times. Flavel resigns as Coots chief after accepting blame for the Farage furore. Yes, it's one of those things that I'm afraid we haven't heard the last of. Coots, owned by NatWest, owned substantially by us. So before you tut too far, we are as responsible as anybody for allowing the banks to deal with us the way that they are at the moment, with complete disregard to common sense, sense of duty, rule of law, you name it. As long as they're actually stuffing money into their back pockets and their front pockets, for that matter, they're happy. They don't care. They all need to resign. In fact, Coots should be closed down. It won't be, because it's the rich person's bank. Oh, dear. Certainly not. The only thing is that the boss of Coots and the boss of NatWest have both fallen on their swords and have said goodbye. What do you want to get? What do you want to bet? They'll go away and it'll all die down, and in 6 months' time, you'll find that they're at the helm of some other big company with the same sort of salary that they are making here. That's the way the system works. At one time, we didn't know about it. Thank God for freedom of the press. Thank God that investigative journalism still to some extent reigns, although the golden era of Sir Harold Evans and the Sunday Times seems to have gone forever. The really in-depth investigative reporting, which benefited us so well, uncovered all sorts of criminal activity, immoral activity 20 years ago, doesn't exist anymore. But there are some individual journalists who still try very hard to uncover some of the evils and the nonsenses that go on behind closed doors. The politicians and the establishment try very hard to keep those doors from being open. We, on the other hand, try very hard to open them. Oh, Mommy doesn't love us anymore. No, indeed. But if we want to live in a society wallowing in its own filth, then we most certainly need to support freedom of the press, freedom of expression. Just plain freedom, and not the closed society which we become, making it very difficult to find out what the hell is going on at any level of our society. Right, okay. Let's see. Is there anything else? No. It's getting a little bit frisky in terms of the wind outside at the moment. It's supposed to be just a gentle breeze, and it's going to hit only about 19 today. That's warm enough, really. It's 40, 50, it's in its 70s. It's going to rain later on this afternoon. For the moment, it had its little dribble this morning. I got caught in that. It waits for me to get outside, and then it starts to rain for some peculiar reason. But we have plenty to keep us occupied in terms of what's in the news today, and it's Friday. All sorts of naughty things come tumbling out on a Friday on the basis that by Monday we'll all have forgotten about it. Well, most people might. We at Mirador most certainly do not. And we'll be keeping an eye on these things, particularly Keir Starmer's suggestion, if he gets into power, and there's a good chance that he's going to, that the triple lock will go. But I've laid down my challenge, Mr. Starmer. Sir, I think. Sir Keir. And here's the challenge, that you immediately effect reform in terms of MPs' expenses and make them subject to the same rules as everybody else. That is fair. That is just. And that is what a decent and fair-minded man would do. And you won't. So I measure you by that. If you won't do that, then you are not a fair-minded man. And I don't want you as leader. I don't want the other lot either. I don't find them very fair-minded. In fact, our leadership, as noted, believe it or not, by one Boris Johnson, is not fit for purpose. Not fit for purpose. But will they do anything about it? Not bloody likely. Reform is the last thing that any politician wants. It's too cozy the way it is. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, we'll be back in half an hour or so. Until then, toodle pip, I think. Yes, toodle pip. Bye-bye.